Welcome to our first fall workshop titled How Women Can Budget to Survive Inflation. I'm Dr. Susan Madsen, founding director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, and also the Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University, and I'm the host of this workshop today. This event furthers the mission of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, which is to strengthen the impact of Utah girls and women. We serve Utah and its residents first by producing relevant, trustworthy, and applicable research. Second, creating and gathering valuable resources. And third, convening trainings and events that inform, inspire, and ignite growth and change for all Utahns. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Utah Education Network, UEN, the John M. Huntsman School of Business, and Empowering Financial Wellness at USU Extension for making this event possible. So I would love to introduce my friend, Amanda H. Christensen. She is an accredited financial counselor and USU Extension professor specializing in personal finance outreach education. Amanda is the editor of the Utah Money Moms blog and social media platforms and a co-author of the Power Pay Money Mastery online course. She regularly contributes financial content to KSL Studio 5 television show and Utah Public Radio. In her 12 years with USU Extension, she has authored numerous national award-winning materials and resources for teaching personal finance, and was the recipient of a 2022 Best of State Award for these efforts. Congratulations. To those of you listening in, there will be a few minutes at the end of the workshop for questions from listeners, and even throughout, Amanda may work those in. So submit your questions anytime in the chat. We'll be watching for them and we'll answer some of them as we can get to them. So Amanda, thanks for joining us today. I'll just turn it right over to you and let you take over and be in the background.
All right, well, thanks. Thanks for having me. This is my favorite topic here, so I am thrilled that I've been invited to chat about this stuff. I've been in my position for about 12 years now, and I'm an accredited financial counselor, as was mentioned, and a lover of Diet Coke, Disneyland, and Dansby Swanson of the Atlanta Braves baseball team. But today we're going to talk about things, not maybe some of our favorite things, these first initial statistics here. Inflation, or the extended period of rising prices, can really take a bite out of your budget. This year, we've seen inflation rise rapidly, the biggest increase in a 12-month period in 40 years' time, which equates to $700 to $800 more per month that a family of 4 needs to come up with just to get by to cover expenses, at a time when half of the population nationally really can't afford a $400 emergency expense without using a credit card. So what do you think credit card application rates have done lately? Yes, they have increased about 30% lately. So let's launch our first poll here. We're going to talk personal today about money. So let's get personal for a minute. I would love to hear from you your answers to some of these initial questions here. If we were going out for lunch today, you should see a poll pop up on your screen here. Where would we go? Thai, barbecue, pizza, Chinese, sushi, Chick-fil-A. If you came over for a game night, what game would you bring? Would that be a card game, a board game, a puzzle, charades, a murder mystery sort of game, or taco, cat, goat, cheese, pizza? It's a card game on Amazon and it's fabulous. And what would you do with $1 million? If you had to choose one of these things, would you tour Italy? Would you do a spa day once a week for life? Stretch that out? Would you donate to your favorite charity, invest and save for future plans? Or would you spend it at the dollar store and Costco? You'll notice I asked a 5-year-old yesterday for his answers to these 3 questions. And the 5-year-old responded, Chick-fil-A, taco, cat, goat, cheese, pizza, just the card game we play as a family lately, and spend it at the dollar store and Costco. So if you'd like to be in line with the 5-year-old, that's fine by me. and you're in good company. Let's see the results of what we have here on this poll number 1. We can share those. Look at that. Thai food. These are people after my own heart, as well as my 5-year-olds. I'm really happy to see that. A lot of us coming in for Thai food, followed by Chick-fil-A and sushi. That's great. If you came over for game night, we'd be playing a card game. Again, people after my own heart here today. That's followed by a board game and a puzzle as a third option. And if you had $1 million, I know it's really hard to make a choice and just choose one, but the majority here, investing and saving for future plans, followed by a few of us that would tour Italy. Okay, thank you. Thanks for participating. And it's fun to just sort of break the ice here as we talk about this personal finance topic. Let me tell you what we're going to talk about today that I've come up with here. With inflation at its highest and our budgets feeling the effects, I think women in particular have unique strengths to draw on. And let's talk about the strengths rather than, how to curb the weaknesses with our strengths today. That's going to be my approach. You may be wondering what strategies are the best to be using right now, how to put your strengths to good use. So we're going to talk tracking spending and budgeting, finding frugal joys, and prioritizing your future. Let's look at that. Let's visualize. Visualization is a really powerful tool in personal finance. It's a powerful tool in many different topics. Inflation is stressful. This money topic is stressful. So as an AFC, I find relieving stress and having a better state of mind going into this topic is really helpful. So close your eyes here and visualize with me. What does a stress-free money situation look like? What are you seeing as you visualize a stress-free money situation? Maybe in one scenario, I'm at Disneyland sipping a Diet Coke and I just got a Dansby Swanson autograph. I'm pretty much on cloud 9 in a stress-free money situation. What does it feel like? Do you feel contentment? Are you feeling peace? Are you feeling satisfaction, joy? Maybe you're feeling the sand beneath your toes a little bit. We'll come back to this visualization later, and I would encourage you to take more time than this to visualize what financial success and stress-free financial circumstances look like. The first tip I'd like to share is about tracking spending and budgeting. But we're going to do this a little differently today, according to your personality type. Sometimes the tracking part of budgeting goes by the wayside and it gets overlooked a little bit. Why do we hound this? Why do we track our expenses in the first place? Well, it's because of that $700 to $800 more that we need to get by right now because of inflation. Tracking helps you come up with that money, and the process will show you where you are bleeding and how to stop the hemorrhaging. It's really critical, and it's kind of a secret weapon. But first, you may be familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality type, and we need to talk about this before we go any further. This is the mother-daughter duo. Elizabeth Briggs-Myers and Catherine Briggs developed the Myers-Briggs type indicator in the 40s to identify personality types and help people choose jobs that vibe well with their personality type. I remember taking this as a freshman in college, right, at career seminar class, right, when I entered college. I think I took it in high school too, actually. So you may have heard some of this before. You may be familiar with terms like champion, protector, mastermind, or inspector. When you answer a series of questions, you find out which one you are. Now, the best budgeting strategy for your personality type may be something you've not considered before, but let me give you this. Budgeting is essentially the job that we are all tasked with that we can't avoid, at least not forever. So why not use the information we have about our personality type to do and inform how we do that job? The Myers-Briggs group 16 personality types into groups, sections of 4. We have analysts here, diplomats, sentinels, and explorers. We're going to take a look at a recommended budgeting strategy for each of these groups of 4. It's okay if you do not know your Myers-Briggs personality type today. This presentation is recorded for reference, and you'll be able to relate as we go to some of these things that I've described here. So let's start with analysts. Personalities that fall into this analyst group are generally innovators. They like intellectual challenges, and they like coming up with creative solutions, sometimes on the fly. On an automatic budget, a budget where savings and bills come first, they're automatically paid out at the start of the month. Once these are covered, the rest of your paycheck is really yours to play around with. Maybe this week you're buying dinner with friends, and next week you're you're investing in career professional development for yourself, right? Analysts also use problem-solving skills to tweak this budget as needed if they run into trouble, AKA inflation, or a period of time where we've got to make some adjustments, right? Tracking discretionary spending is critical for success month to month for this group. Okay, the next group, diplomats. These folks are storytellers. They lead with inspiration and positivity. And they can be idealistic and free-spirited, which can sometimes translate into emotions influencing financial decisions. Their money mindset needs to clearly connect to their financial why. They've got to know big picture personal finance, why I make the decisions I do day to day because of my big picture hopes and dreams. So they're going to put their money where their heart is. These are think value-based budgeting. Okay, in their daily budgeting and tracking, these folks could really benefit from cash envelopes and from that budgeting strategy where we're writing categories like groceries, clothes, or trip to Disneyland on envelopes, and we're filling them with corresponding stacks of cash. These envelopes help you track spending with flexibility, and anything left over in a grocery envelope transitions to the Disneyland envelope at the end of the month and gets deposited into the bank account where you have a savings account labeled Disneyland, for that purpose. So this is helping these folks feel like that's the flexibility that they've got, but they've got boundaries as well, so they don't blow the budget, and they're tracking spending as well. Sentinels, are you the designated party planner? I think I am. You might be a sentinel because you have you value taking care of others and ironing out the details. You want it all lined up and ironed out ahead of time, whether it's managing your budget or the party planning, whatever it is. You take care of business and typically have all the details figured out. Well, this might also make you you may be folks that already have a budget in place, so some kind of plan for spending and tracking. I think a no-nonsense, zero-based budget works really well for folks that fall into this category because you're not afraid of committing ahead of time where you're going to send your money every month. And that's just okay. It's okay with you to commit ahead of time and then be flexible as you go if needed, right? Every dollar in a zero-based budget has a plan. Every dollar. It might go towards rent or debt repayment, savings goal, entertainment, but you know where every dollar is going. Every dollar has a job to benefit you. Okay, the final group in this Myers-Briggs personality grouping are explorers. And as the name suggests, these folks are not it's not the faint of heart here. These folks love taking risks and living life to the fullest. But that really does not and should not mean that you have to be bad with money because you have this personality trait, okay? A 50-30-20 budget can help explorers sort of put aside enough in their paychecks to have all the adventures that they want. It's basic, and it breaks out like this. 50% of your net pay goes to things like rent and bills, 30% to wants, and 20% goes to emergency savings and retirement investments. Now, that's, again, another group that breaking those percentages out will need to track spending to make sure that things are falling in line with those percentages. But see, it's just a different way to think about your budgeting that helps this personality type utilize their strengths. Now, I see a question in the chat. Is there a digital budget app for the cash envelope method? Yes, there is. And it's called, I believe it's Every Dollar. And you can Google, you could search that in Google. There might be more than that, but there are digital apps that allow you to sort of cash envelope and fill in your categories and then track how close you are to the end of the month to spending in each category. Fabulous idea. Good budget is another one. Yes, thank you, Vincenza. So look for those if you relate to that strategy and feel like that would help. So here's your challenge. I have 3 challenges for you today. This is the first Do This Today challenge. What personality types and budgets aren't all a one size fits all. In fact, I sometimes struggle taking those personality tests because I feel like I have multiple responses to the question they're asking me to determine my personality. But it's okay. If you get a general gist, get the general idea, understanding how your personality strengths impact your decision-making really, truly can help with finding a budgeting practice that fits your lifestyle. Identify your personality type, choose a budgeting strategy that draws on the strengths of that personality type. And no matter what budgeting strategy you use, what does tracking your spending do for you? It enables you to navigate higher prices of inflation and be really strategic about spending to stretch your income. So learning how to budget for periods of inflation may just be helping us rethink and reprogram the way we think about money moving forward indefinitely, which can be a really good thing. It can be a really good thing. So challenge is to implement this in next month's budget. All right, I'm really, really excited about this next one. I have dove in, I really have embraced this concept lately, and I'm excited to hear what you think about it and to share. Finding frugal joys. What are we doing talking about joy and budgeting in the same sentence? I know. Well, there's an age-old question that I know you've heard before, which is, can money buy happiness? The short answer, according to current research, is actually yes. But here's where the if I just made more money, I'd be happier gets debunked, okay? A Princeton University psychologist found that above the $88,000 income level, more income than that did not increase happiness for study participants. This is interesting to me. Further increases in income no longer improved their ability to do what mattered most for their emotional well-being, such as spending quality time with people they like, avoiding pain and disease, and enjoying leisure. I'd like to write that psychologist and just say, why don't you give me quadruple that amount and let me just test that theory out? Let me just see if I'm happier or not. But truly, it is interesting to me, this research that's been shared and this concept. So instead of this idea that more money is going to solve my budgeting problem or help me overcome inflation, you might focus on frugal joys. Free or inexpensive things that make you really happy. Now, Susan has just dropped in the chat a list of 100 frugal joys for you to reference later. With a little brainstorming, taking a look at this list, I think a little brainstorming and planning, you incorporate frugal joys into your budget, and it is been a game changer for me as I've done this. Now I want to have let's launch the second poll here, because I want to hear from you today. What frugal joy would you choose on this list of frugal joys? And we'll share the responses too, so we can see what people choose. So what frugal joy would you choose? If you have to choose just one for today, what is it? A game night with friends? Is it a puzzle? Is it gardening, baking, hiking or bike riding, reading, giving yourself a pedicure, or tackling a DIY project? What frugal joy would you choose? And we can share the responses with everyone and see what this group, where this group falls here with these choices. Okay, this is fun because this is a good mix here of answers and responses from people. So coming out ahead here with 33% of the vote is hiking or bike riding. Next in line, I think with the next highest would be game night with friends. That's probably where I would be on this list. And then we've got reading coming out next. And then close behind reading, tied are puzzle and gardening and baking, with DIY project and giving yourself a pedicure. Might not sound like the most relaxing thing. I enjoy giving myself a pedicure and then depositing $50 into my account. The $50 I saved goes to me just to invest or spend later, right? Okay, so thank you for responding to those frugal joys. So this is your challenge for this frugal joy section. Look at the frugal joy that you chose. And this is what you need to identify. What's the value behind the action? So what action, what are you getting by participating in that action? A game night with friends might be connection that you value, or a puzzle might be your way to decompress mentally. A hike or a bike ride might be a way to manage anxiety. Giving yourself a pedicure might be a way to rest and relax. This money mind shift, so see, you're attaching there's a value behind the frugal joy that you chose, the things you would gravitate to. And this money mindset shift is what we are going for here. There's many ways to spend money on rest and relaxation, like a spa day. There are many ways to decompress mentally, right? I can go to a movie theater and decompress mentally. So find the value. I've really leaned into this lately, and I can tell you there is joy in the frugal joy choice. Find the value behind the things and experiences you love to spend time and money on. Identify the frugal joy that comes and connects to that value, and purposefully plan to implement these activities in your September budget and on your September calendar. Okay. All right, let's look at the third tip today is to prioritize your future. Getting back to basics here, we're going to talk investing. Investing is simply putting a sum of money away for a period of time with the aim of receiving back significantly more money in the future. First, let's look at the women and money facts. Women grapple with a gender pay gap, earning in Utah only about 70 cents to the dollar, which is than their male counterparts, which is worse than the national average. Thank you, Utah Women in Leadership Project, for that research and efforts to make that more known. Fidelity estimated that women who take a 1-year career break can lose up to $100,000 in retirement earnings and contributions. So the decision to leave the workforce, sometimes motivated by childcare costs or caregiving or health, whatever it is, does have financial repercussions. Finally is life expectancy. And on average, women live 5 years longer than men. So our resources must stretch farther. It is for these reasons that we must, whether we're in the workforce or not, whether we're earning a fair wage or not, whether, whatever our life expectancy personally is, we have got to prioritize our future by setting aside money to invest. We are doing that by adjusting expenses, and I have a couple tips for you to help you do that, and another challenge as well. And you might say, now, Amanda, all my spending is necessary. It's all necessary. But there's research that shows that we spend an average of $180 on unplanned, spontaneous purchases each month. What would $180 invested per month do for you? I mean, that's a thought, right? So here's what it's opportunity cost is the concept we're considering here. So let's look at how the step down principle and the cutting expenses guidebook that we can email to you after this presentation. Let's look at how these two things can help us navigate finding money to invest. Now, I see before I move on a question in the chat. Why is there a gender gap and why is it worse in Utah? And I would guide you to the Utah Women in Leadership Project website to find the release. And since Susan can talk about this as well, that they have done a snapshot of the research, a quick, so you can see why Utah is worse than the national average. Why is there a gender pay gap? Well, for these reasons that we've just looked at here. The work career break, the life expectancy, and there are other reasons that get a little more complicated as well. So we'll point you to that resource so that you can see more about that. But let's look at how to find money to invest, how to adjust expenses. If you told me I have to cut expenses just because inflation is bad right now, I'm not particularly motivated to do that. I'll be honest, I'm not. If though you tell me that I need to be cutting expenses so that my future financial self is secure, happy, and content, I'm a little more willing to go without some of the things I'm spending money on today. One thing I'd like you to consider is the step down principle. It essentially works like this. You pick a variable spending category that you're spending money on every month. And you decide, I'm going to decrease spending in my entertainment budget, for example. One time I tracked my spending and was concerned with how much money my family and I were spending on going through a drive-through or getting food to eat out at a restaurant or bring home, like takeout. I was concerned. It was a lot. So I set a goal to half that amount next month and see if I could do it. And I figured out ways to cut the cost of eating out without completely stopping eating out, right? So the step down principle helps you visualize a staircase where the top stair is your current level of spending and the bottom stair is no spending at all. And what would be a step or two down that you'd be willing to take to free up some money to throw towards some investments? That's how you'd think about this principle. It helps you make changes that are more sustainable in the long run. As a financial counselor, I'm not here to tell people to completely cut out eating out or an entertainment budget in order to have money to invest, because I don't think that's sustainable in the long run. This step down principle helps you decide, where can I step down, either how often I do something, or instead of eating out, I'm just going to go out for dessert maybe, and that's saving a chunk of change, right? Or I'm going to still go to the movies. I really enjoy seeing a movie at the movie theater, but I'm going to bring my own treats. I'm not going to pay, the hundreds of dollars for popcorn and pop at the movie theater. That's a little over exaggeration, but it's still a lot. Okay, we also have a free resource called the Cutting Expenses Guidebook. Now, this can help you find ways to implement the step down principle and free up money that you can put towards investments. Again, drastic changes in spending habits are not sustainable for the long term, and they have a high failure rate. This booklet has actions that you can take to cut your expenses in groceries, clothing, entertainment, medical, home maintenance, and home expenses, just to name a few. So it will be it'll be a fabulous one to send out to you so that you can reference that after the fact. Now, is it worth it? What is the fruit? What's the future fruit of frugality today? Like, what is it that we get in an effort to adjust spending and find money to invest? Well, it's hundreds of thousands, actually, truthfully. And if you're thinking, I'll have money to invest when I'm older, or when I get that pay raise, when I'm not paying for my kids' expenses, then I'll have money to invest. This time value of money example, I'm sure is a concept you've heard before, but let's remind ourselves, this is showing us what $5,000 invested each year for 10 years does for us. If we start at age 25, at age 35, at age 45, or at age 55. So the sooner we start, the better off we are, always. Those that start early reap the benefits. Now there is those that start late, they can catch up. They can invest even more and play catch up a little. But I'll tell you this, those that start at age 25, the 45 and 55-year-old, the yellow and the red line, even if they double and they increase their contributions to 10,000, they'll never catch that green line down the road in 30 to 40 years. They'll never catch it. That's what the time value of money does for your investments today. That's not to discourage anyone who has not started investing at all. That is not my intent. My intent is to motivate, light a little fire, motivate the action of starting now. Starting now is your best option, right? And anything extra you can find to increase what you're putting in now pays off big time later down the road. So here's your do this today challenge with this adjusting expenses concept. Write down, categorize, and add up discretionary spending from last month. You've already got that data in your checking account, on your credit card statement. Go find it, pull it, write it down, categorize, and come up with where you spent your discretionary money last month. Discretionary spending is all of the spending that you do after your fixed expenses. So after your bills are paid, what do you do with what's left over? What does that look like? Pick one category to step down your spending in next month's budget and invest what you save. Now, back to that visualization we did at the beginning, you might think, I could never achieve that feeling of financial stress-free finances, or, that financial wellness might feel unattainable. So this is a concept that I invite you to include in your day-to-day. Many of us might need to consider the word yet in face of financial stress. You might say, I don't have this investing thing figured out yet. Or I'm not good at budgeting yet. We women are really good at being really critical of ourselves. So will you please add yet to your language the next time you catch yourself in negative money talk? So my goal today was to help you see that women have great strengths that help us budget according to our personality strengths, finding frugal joys, and prioritizing our futures. And we actually can do that simultaneously because we can multitask till the cows come home, right? You can take simple steps to protect yourself from inflation's worst impacts. You already have the tools. This is how I suggest you put them into play moving forward. I've also challenged you to identify your personality type and the best budgeting strategy for that type. To identify the value behind the things and the experiences that you love to spend money on, and find the frugal joy that gives you that value. To purposely plan to implement that next month, and to write down, categorize, and add up all of your discretionary spending from last month. Pick one category to step down in and invest the savings from stepping down. All right, now let's launch the third poll. I have one last question for you. Let's see where the group decides here. What challenge will you implement first? Of the challenges I've given, if you had to pick one, what challenge would you implement first? If you're working on these things one at a time, would it be identifying your money personality for your budgeting type? Would it be implementing the frugal joys? Or will it be investing step down principal savings? What do you choose to do first? Okay, let's see where our answers land. Oh, this is fun. This is fun. We've got a good spread here with 40% choosing to invest step down principal savings. And then 32% identifying your personality type for budgeting and tracking expenses. And then 28% implementing frugal joys. So that's quite the mix here with folks here today. Yes, Stephanie, I will be sending out the cutting expenses guidebook. And Camille, that was really hard. I said the first answer, but I really love all three. So excited for these. I am really, really glad to hear that, Camille. If you would like more personal finance webinars and classes like this, visit us at finance.usu.edu/EFW. If you're a Utah resident and would like to host a class like this for a group, we'd be thrilled to teach. So you can click on the request a class that's at this same link. And I got to mention inflation.usu.edu. This is a new resource that was recently launched where you can it's a one-stop shop for, the first thing you find on this inflation website is that cutting expenses guidebook and more. So head there if you want to if you don't want to wait for that guidebook, head there and you can have it right now. But that's a great website too. And then I just would like to invite you to join me. This is a group of women and I am passionate about sharing financial education with women. So come join me over at Utah Money Moms. I've been sharing a lot of frugal joys over there lately and updates on the student loan situation currently, and it's a fun way to stay connected to real life money smarts. So I'm most active on Instagram. We do post on Facebook as well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here. If you wanted to take 2 minutes and provide some feedback, scan the QR code. Those that do are entered to win a drawing, and that helps us with grant funding that we have right now. Thank you for having me. I'll turn the time back over here to Susan.
Well, I wanted to ask a question. Would love to have other questions now come through. Thank you you're always so engaging and I appreciate that. One of the things that I'm in state conversations about a lot are, this inflation piece, but especially the cost of housing. I mean, people are working, some salaries, we are in a talent shortage. So salaries are increasing on the one hand, but housing costs are increasing above salaries. And so this has really added stress to a lot of, especially low income, but middle income. What advice would you say? There's other costs too. Our gas, transportation costs have gone up. They've come down a little bit. But it's been a stressful time for many families. Any advice or any thoughts specifically about that?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I wish there was an easy answer to this, because if there was, we'd have found it and we'd be implementing that easy answer. I go back to that 50 50-30-20 budget strategy where you 50% of your just, your take home pay going towards your housing and transportation costs, those fixed expenses. If you do the math and you find that more than that is going towards those expenses for you, that's the gauge. That's where people can really get some concrete answers. If you look at your spending and do the math and it's more than that 50% for those combined expenses, I would be reaching out, seeing, what programs are you able to access for rent assistance, or housing assistance? Where can you cut back? Where can the transportation costs cut back if the housing costs can't? It's sort of a game of opportunity cost right now.
And Amanda, I want to throw in one more that we're doing so many conversations about, and it really is a crisis in many families, and that is childcare. The cost of childcare, even for one child. My own daughter is struggling with, well, first of all, she lives out in Eagle Mountain, and there's not very many options of childcare, and she's a nurse, but she's like, it's hard to function, and it's hard to find childcare part-time, and so it's all or nothing, full-time or whatever.
Yes.
So that is one of those basic things in that 50%, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would agree wholeheartedly. And that's a struggle for everyone to decide, is it worth it for me to be in the workforce when it costs just as much as I earn for the childcare, and we consider the long-term investment or retirement losses when we don't contribute. Now, just because we're out of the workforce doesn't mean we can't contribute and invest. So we've got to debunk that thought process, right? Because we can certainly invest even if we're not employed.
And many women, Amanda, don't have that choice. I mean, they don't have the choice. They can't choose to stay home.
Right. You're right. That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, and someone in the chat said also, and this is a great point, also the cost of elder care, not just child care.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's really important. So I'm just putting that on our, when you talk about that 50%, that includes all the bills. I'm trying to think through my list: housing, food, basic food, not probably not eating out, but basic food. What is really basic, right? And childcare and elder care. What else goes in that category?
Well, those fixed monthly expenses are going to be also your benefits, what you're paying for healthcare.
Yeah.
Things like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see, I don't know if you saw this other comment about, I don't think it's fair to put it on women to make that decision to leave the workforce. I wouldn't never want to stay home, even if I wanted to have children, which I don't, but it does come down to that. When you look at the research, I mean, women are the ones to kind of make a decision in many families. In some families, of course, if there's happens to be two partners or parents in the home, that can be a decision by, both, but often women just make that decision, right?
Right. This is good discussion today. Any specific tips to us single ladies? Hello. I try my best to budget, but sometimes don't make ends meet with lower wages. Yeah, I again have really valued, and single or not, but I think single, sometimes maybe seeking connection and seeking to interact and engage with others can lead us to spending a little more in that way. And so I have really leaned into the frugal joys concept lately, and have tried to slow down and breathe and enjoy sipping a Diet Coke on my back patio with chips and salsa while my dogs play in the backyard. And I know that doesn't sound like everybody's Friday night most fun thing to do, but I have been purposeful about including frugal joys into my calendar, and I have felt the joy, and I would highly recommend that for people to try to cut expenses and make ends meet.
Great. I'm looking and seeing we've gotten to most of the questions, but
Yeah.
one person does say that their husband has chosen to stay home with the baby, so the wife can work. I think, those are personal decisions, definitely. But I do think it's important, Amanda, for us. I know I'm in public policy conversations all the time. For any of us in those kinds of conversations or in public work or community work, I do think it's important for us to remember that not all families are the same. Not all families have the same choices, the educational level. So when we're looking at societal efforts and societal work and public policy, we've got to help our legislators and others know that some people just don't have the choices that other people. I'm in a privileged bunch, I have to say, where I live and having a 2-income home, but that's important to realize. No matter, but Amanda, I'm sure you, through your years, have worked with women in all kinds of different situations, from being a single mother to not getting married and taking, all across that. And do you give the same recommendations for the most part on these steps that you've talked about?
Well, what I've over time and what I'm getting most recently are, no matter the age and stage, is the same question: is how do I track my expense? What method should I use? What should I do to track? It is the universal issue that no matter your status, lately everyone has felt the pull, like, ooh, I gotta be watching what I spend better, or on some scale, watching what you spend and tracking your money is affecting everyone right now. And so I really think that considering your personality type and helping implement a strategy that doesn't make you feel like you're dreading that task every month can help everyone.
Yeah. And I do think your activity of just going back, some people just don't like spreadsheets and don't want to worry about all that, but
Right.
going back for 1 month, even as a little start, and looking at all your expenses and just being aware, just like thinking,
Right.
like every once in a while, doing that.
Right.
I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate
You're
your time today. To everybody, wanted to thank you for joining us today, and also want to thank our sponsors, the Utah Education Network, again, the John M. Huntsman School of Business and USU Extension, and the program that you're involved with, the Empowering Financial Wellness. So thanks to everybody for joining today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.